Shalom. Sorry for the confusion here. Apparently the link up is a weak one because of the winds and the rain outside. But we are going to speak about natural phenomenon today with our eye on the beginning of creation and the speed of time. And these questions are questions that every thinking person will ask about what was in the beginning. How did the beginning happen? How long have we been here? How old is the universe? And of course we have many scientists and experts weighing in on this subject. But we have the Gemara and we have the Talmud to explain things in a way that might be extra strange. But once you understand it in the context of modern science, actually we come to a place of peace in our understanding of the beginning of creation and how time is measured and how time moves through the human experience. To begin with, we're going to start on Daf Nun Tet Amud Aleph. In the middle of the Daf, Amar Rabbi Alexandri, Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Lo nivru ra'amim ela lefshotak mimiyot shebelev. The only reason that God created thunder and lightning, specifically here thunder, is to strip away the crookedness in our hearts. That's kind of a harsh beginning, right? That we have crookedness in the heart, and thunder was created to straighten our hearts out. Now you might say, well, there must be other reasons for thunder to have been created. If we just look at the phenomenon we talked about last time, the striking of clouds to each other, God clapping his hands, God crying out, dropping tears in the ocean, kicking the floor, all these metaphorical expressions about the creation of thunder and lightning, etc., are all connected with helping to raise our awareness about the natural phenomenon, that they are not separate from Hashem at all, ever. Sometimes they operate with mercy, sometimes they don't. But we have to fix that place in our mind that wants to see natural phenomenon and spiritual phenomenon as separate. Okay, that's not really true. That they are one thing that we perceive because of the duality of our mind. We receive and perceive them differently. Okay, so the crookedness in our heart, well, that could go a lot of ways, but thunder definitely straightens us out a little bit. And he brings a pasuk, Ve'Elohim asa shiru lefanav, and God made it so that we would have awe. In other words, he knew we would need awe, that we would have a greater ability to perceive him if he helped us, obviously. So he created things in the world to elevate our awe. Otherwise, we'll go through our lives with our heads down, walking to work and walking home, and who knows if we're going to ever lift up our hearts to heaven and see why we're here in the first place. Okay. So the crookedness can leave the heart in many ways. This is one of them. Now, Amar Rabbi Alexandri, Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, another statement from these rabbis. Someone who sees a rainbow in a cloud should fall on his face, which is, of course, a prostration to Hashem, a very serious act of prayer. Why do I have to fall on my face when I see the rainbow in the cloud? Why would that be? It says, Kamarei keshet asher yeh ba'anan. When you see, like the image of the rainbow that is in the anan, ve'epol al panai, and I will see it and I will fall on my face. So there is this awesomeness to a rainbow that is suggesting to us, I better do tshuva quickly. The rainbow is giving us a sign, okay? A keshet, of course, literally means a rainbow. Hi, Tuvia, welcome. Here's the Gemara. Boom, boom. So what is it about the rainbow? We know that the rainbow was shown to Noah after the flood, and God used it as a sign that I'm making a covenant with humanity, that I will never destroy the world with flood again. It doesn't mean there won't be floods, but it will never be a cataclysmic flood like there was at the time of Noah. So the Keshet itself is a sign of the connection that we have between humanity and God, that we have a bond, we have a covenant. Now, covenant, of course, is related to any agreement or that we make between two people or between two countries or between heaven and earth. The interesting thing over here about the rainbow is that it has been adopted by a symbol in our generation and many other times, I'm sure, in history, as this sign of acceptance, of peace. But that's really what the rainbow was giving us, is this idea of that God is not going to destroy us as our imaginations might lead us to believe. Because after the flood, you can imagine how traumatized humanity was, what was left of humanity, right? One family, and they started to grow and reproduce and expand. But the trauma of the memory of the flood did not leave them ever. And that led on all the way until the building of the Tower of Babel, that they wanted to build a place high enough that it could be above the waves. That's one interpretation of the Tower of Babel. Obviously, they had other issues, but the point is that the rainbow, which is a beautiful thing in the sky, really is a sign of God holding back his judgment, holding back his power of din, and showing mercy to humanity. So mercy to humanity is something that we always need, especially as a collective. Okay. Interestingly, about a rainbow, why a rainbow is also considered a spiritual symbol for the Shekhinah, for the divine presence, is because the rainbow itself has 7 colors of the normal color spectrum. But you can't see it unless the light is refracted. And so all 7 colors disappear when there's no water to refract the sunlight. So the straight sunlight you can't see. It's invisible. It only strikes objects in that we can see. But once the straight sunlight, which we can't see, is refracted by the water in the sky, it creates the rainbow, we see 7 colors. So you see, this is a beautiful metaphor to understand a little bit how the divine presence is. She's invisible, but she can make herself visible. She refracts her light into the physical realm in the sense of the rainbow through water. But also, the divine presence can refract her presence into human beings, into names, and into the Torah itself, and into our prayers. So there is this invisible and this visible aspect of the rainbow, which reflects also the divine presence, which is a nice thing to remember. Okay. But why are we bowing down to the rainbow? Because we're afraid. We're afraid that something's going to happen. And we want to show awe, appropriate awe to Hashem. Okay. So the blessing on the rainbow is Baruch Zocher HaBrit, and the rabbis add on another piece. God is faithful with his covenant, and he establishes everything he says. Okay, so let's keep moving. The Gemara goes on with a section of blessings. Where all these other phenomena that we've been talking about are not also Maaseh Bereshit. So why do we have different blessings for different phenomenon when they're all Maaseh Bereshit? They all came from the beginning of creation, whether it's wind or mountains or volcanoes or earthquakes. In other words, all of these things are part of God's might and power, but they're also part of Maaseh Bereshit. Amar Abaye, Krok Tanei B'Rava Amar Hatam V'Varech Tartem V'Varech Shekochom Leolam. He says no. We make a different blessing on the power of when we see the mountains and the hills. that his powers fills the world. V'osei ma'aseh bereshit, hacha osei ma'aseh bereshit, ve'ika shkoch mo le'olam leka. So in one case we have the idea of that God's filling the world with his power, like when you hear thunder, you hear rain, you see lightning, etc. But then you have the other idea that we're mentioning the creation of the object itself, not its appearance in creation. In other words, its phenomenon as we experience it is here and now. Shekacha borei olamo, right? That God created this thing like this in the world. But then we have this other blessing about, well, it's part of Maaseh Bereshit. So you see that we're spanning a great amount of time in one blessing, from mentioning both these concepts. And so the Malei Olam and the Koho and his Gevurah are obviously things that he also created in Maaseh Bereshit. But when we bless on the appearance of a thing, we are reminded of the beginning. And so the two are really part of obviously a similar phenomenon. Okay. Now, Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Aroi Rakia b'Taharata. Anybody who sees the heavens when they are pure makes the blessing Baruch Osei Bereshit. Again, we go back to the beginning. Amatai, when do we do this? Amar Abai ki hata mitra kulei laila. He says, well, after when there has been rain all night, we know that the heavens in the morning are very clear and pure in the sky. But Safra atab astana, and in the morning, right, that the purification, the sky is complete. Umagale lahu l'shamayim, and it reveals the heavens. Upelik the Rafram bar Papa Amar Rav Chisda, and in the name of these rabbis, they said, Miyom shechara beit hamikdash lo nir'et rakia b'tarata. From the time of the destruction of the Mikdash, we have not seen the firmament, the heavens, in their purity. So here we have a very interesting interaction here. We have a destruction of the building, God's temple, and all of a sudden there's another physical result in the world because of it. We can't see the heavens as clearly. So, that might well be because of that the heavens are not going to be as clear. It could be filled with dust, could be rain, clouds, asteroids, could be anything, right? Or it's that my mind is not as clear as it used to be. So I can't see the clarity that is pre-existent from the beginning of creation. But since there's no Beit HaMikdash, this psychic universe has not been ordered and aligned and purified. And so with that confusion, so to speak, that unclarity, we see here in the Pasuk, he brings Al Bish Shemaim Kadrut, I will enclose the heavens with darkness, with Sak Asim Kasutam, and they will put sackcloth as their covering. In other words, this sign of mourning. So when we're in mourning, automatically we're going to lose some of that spiritual vision to see the Shemaim itself. Okay. Tana Rabbanan, Aro et Hama b'tukavata levanav ken gvorata v'kochavim b'mesilotam b'mazalo kesidram. Now, anybody who sees, the rabbis say, anybody who sees the moon in its time, the sun in its time, and the moon in its power, and the stars in their pathways, and the constellations in their orders. Omer Baruch will say, Breshit. Again, this blessing. But wait a minute, all these phenomenon, the stars, the sun, the mazalot, the whole constellations, what does it mean to see them in their order? It seems like a bit of something that you could easily question. They're always in their order. When do the stars leave their order? One time, God took a star out of Kima and threw it in the ocean, and there are professors that say that could have been the cause of the flood. Beseder. But nonetheless, the question here is why? What does he mean by seeing them in their order? Amai have Amar Abaye. Abaye is going to answer. Kol esri v'shmona shanim. Every 28 years, v'hadar v'machzor v'nafla tekufat nisan b'shabbatai b'orta detlata gavhe arba. Now he's telling us a secret tradition has been passed down that every 28 years that the sun returns to its place when it's in the calendar month of Nisan, with the cycle, with the constellation of Shabtai, which is Saturn, right? And Bo'orta, and then in the evening, the Talat Gavhei Arba, and he says that this was on the fourth day. So now what's going on here? What the Rav is telling us is that there is a time when and a place where everything was created. When the sun and the moon and the stars and the constellations were created, they all had a certain place in their pathway. In other words, there was a time when these things didn't exist, and then they came into existence, and they had a set place when they came into existence, and all of them returned to their place of the original location every 28 years. That every 28 years the sun is going to be where it was when God first created it. Tuesday or Wednesday, right. It could be on the shift between Tuesday and Wednesday. Right. Very good, Tuvia. So what's going on? We're making a blessing and we're marking, and in the yeshiva, the Mekubalim all get in buses and go out to the field and make a big blessing on the sun, and then make a Suda, because we're marking the perfection of creation. And we're marking the cycles that are woven into these entities called the planets, the suns, the stars, constellations, etc. But what does that tell us? That there was a point of beginning. And they were created. In other words, you could say, well, the sun is really a fusion reactor of a piece of crushed carbon of iron that became this awesome heater for this side of the galaxy or something, right? This solar system. Thank you. But is that enough? There was suddenly a fusion reactor in a piece of lead, iron flying through space. But we're talking about all the stars everywhere. Constellations. These things are hundreds of light years away. And they were all created at the same time, in their places. Well, if we look at the Big Bang Theory, which is a theory that can be worked into creation theory in different ways, and we'll talk about this a little bit. But the creation of the Big Bang Theory is that there was an original core of matter that exploded and spread matter everywhere in the universe. Now, let's say that's true, no problem. If that's true, though, when did all the stars reach their points in space? When did all the constellations make the nice shapes that we see up in the sky at night? When was the moon and the sun and the stars of our solar system suddenly created? After all that matter expanded and stopped, bam, it stopped right there. Freeze. Hold your place, everybody. Is that what happened in heaven? Because we know this name of Shin Daled Yud, Shaddai, this name that God used to stop creation from going further, but we're still told that all of matter is expanding still. That the universe is blue shifted. Means matter is...
That's modern physics.
That's modern physics, right? Astronomy. That if you see a planet that's blue shifted, that means it's moving away from you. And if it's red shifted, it's moving towards you based on the frequency of the light, the speed of the planet, etc. Okay, so what's going on? Do we have this? The scientists are telling us that the universe is about 13.5 billion years old, that the Earth is about 3 billion years old, that human beings are around 20 to 50,000 years old, right? And the Torah is saying, no, it's 5,779 years. And everybody laughs, and they think the religious people are silly, and that they don't know what they're talking about. And the Lubavitch Rebbe in Brooklyn, who agreed that he said that the world is 5,779 years old. So I got scientists telling me you're about 3 billion years off, right? How do we work this out? Okay, I'll tell you how we work it out, and it might seem obvious, it might not, but if you argue with me, that's great. Write your comments. Tuvia. I'm sure you like to argue. Anyways, but listen, how do we measure space and time? We measure time by the movement of matter through space. Right now, you're moving if you're walking down the street, your average speed is about 2.5, 3 miles per hour. If you're driving in your car, your average speed is 55, right? Unless you're in Texas, right? If you're in an airplane, you're going around 500 miles an hour, give or take. Are those big speeds? Well, they might seem big to us if you stick your head out the window of an airplane. But what was the speed of the matter when it left the Big Bang? How fast was that matter exploding and expanding? Much faster than light, or at least the speed of light, because it was light. So if something's moving at the speed of light, okay, so that's 186,000 miles per second squared. If something's moving that fast, guess what happens? The matter turns into energy. It's not matter anymore. Your apple becomes a ball of light. Right? Your car is suddenly a transcendental vehicle. Because you're moving so fast, the speed itself transforms matter into light. And so how do you measure the speed of that? How do you measure time when things are moving so fast? But wait a minute. If we understand that time is a flexible concept, it is not rigid and fixed to our solar system and to our experience of human beings that sit on a planet that turns around the earth every 365 days.
Creation itself. Time itself is creation.
Time is a created thing. And it's a flexible thing based on the bodies you use to measure it. So if you're measuring time, earth time, yeah, it's a 24-hour day. But if you're measuring creation time from the moment of the Big Bang, that matter is moving a lot faster than it is now. And so that the time itself is going to be moving much faster. And so that you could pack 1 billion years in a couple of moments if it's moving that fast. Verstehst? It's my one word of Yiddish. I get to practice once in a while. But really, think about it. If things are moving so fast, then you can't measure time the way we measure it now. And therefore, when God tells us that the world is 5779 years old, he means in your mindset, with your internal clock. Not my clock. My clock is a little bigger. I measure things according to light speed and faster. Because the fastest thing in the universe is God's thought itself. Gravity is faster than the speed of light. Scientists have come up. Because why? Because if you break the gravity between two distant objects, they immediately fall out of relation. So what happens is that time is expanding along with matter. And as the matter expands, it slows down. And so time itself slows down until it gets to the point, think, that Hashem wants. 24-hour day for Earth, 365 year, 30 days around the moon, the Earth, 30 days around the Earth, the moon will travel. And all these numbers are part of God's perfection in the balance of creation. But here we now see that you can, that when the scientists tell you that the Earth, the universe is approximately 13 billion years old, they're trying to measure God time. And you know what? They might be right. They might be close. But we're not living in God time. We're living in human time. So the contradictions fall away. Because we have this ability as human beings to imagine God time. Now, imagining it doesn't mean you're really getting it right. It's not really a clear, very accurate approximation. But if you can imagine, if I'm 58 years old, I've been around this planet not that long. It seems like a long time, and some days it seems very short. Everybody knows when you're going on a date and you're anticipating seeing someone you're interested in, time goes fast. And then after the date doesn't go well and you're driving home, time goes slow. So the point is, again, that we are measuring time through our mindset. And the Zohar also explains to us that time begins when the energy of the mind goes down to the sphere of chesed. because your head is in a realm above time and your body's in time. Okay? Because the head has the ability to imagine forward and backward. But your body is just a servant of your head. So head is where we are in time, and the body above time, and the body is in time. Okay? So when we think about all these things together, we can understand a little bit more now why the rabbis say every 28 years we make a blessing on the sun, because it's appearing exactly where it was the first day of creation. And that's an important event every 28 years. 28, of course, is gematria koach, power. So, of course, koach ma'asav yigid la'amo, that God told the Jews the power of his deeds. And that's what the Torah is doing here. It's giving us science and very clipped phrases that are leading our mind where the scientists have finally gotten because of all the technology. So people think, oh, the biblical creation needs to catch up to the scientific one. I'm just saying, no. The scientific community is catching up to the biblical creation, the biblical understanding. Because we understand that when you have a being that's above time, he can control anything within time. He created it. Okay? And so next time people argue with you about this, well, be careful, because you could lose the argument pretty fast. But if we understand these principles, how time is measured according to the speed of matter, then we can understand how the beginning was very, very, very fast, and it's been slowing down ever since. Kind of like, most of us, we slow down as we go. Nonetheless, we have a more Gemara to cover here. We have, and by the way, if you want to look into these things further, Rabbi Gerald Schroeder has a book called Genesis and the Big Bang. It's been out now 25 or more years, and it really helps us understand these concepts well. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, we're going to return to making blessings over natural phenomenon. The someone who sees the sea, which is usually the Mediterranean Sea, but if you live in California and you see the Pacific, or you live in North Carolina, you see the Atlantic, it's the same thing. Well, how often can we make this blessing over seeing the sea? What if you live on a condo on the side of the beach? Does it mean you make a blessing every day about seeing the sea? No. The answer is Ka'ad Kama, Amar Rabbi Abba, Amar Rav Yitzhak, Ad Shloshim Yom. Every 30 days, we can make a new blessing on seeing the sea. Amar Rami Barabba, Amar Rav Yitzhak, Ro'eh Parat Agishra de Bavel, Omer Baruch Usei Breshit. We have another blessing that if you see a certain special bridge in Persia, which of course today is Iran, you saw this, it says Parat, the Euphrates River. You see it going under a bridge in Babylon, Omer Baruch Osei Breshit.
Iraq.
Well, it's Iraq, that's right. It's not Iran, it's Bavel. Why, though? What's so important about this bridge and this river? I'm looking, Agishra de Bavel Rashi, Omer Baruch Osei Breshit. Kayam lohu, it is established, understood, shelo nishtana prat me haluchato al yedei adam misham ulamala. That at this point of this bridge, the pathway of the Euphrates River has not been changed by man. Very interesting idea. That there is a way that God made the rivers flow through the lands, and then man comes along and says, no, well, we want the water over here. And so they build dams, and they build reservoirs, and they build canals. Fine. But what the Torah is saying, we're going to make a blessing on the part that man hasn't touched, which is kind of a beautiful idea, really. It kind of rings with a sense of propriety and compassion or for appreciating the way God made things to begin with. Okay? Right, and the Rashi continues that after this bridge, the river Euphrates was channeled and redirected in various ways. But it's kind of a nice thought too for anybody who appreciates the care of the planet and ecology and the care of ecosystems, because all of it's wrapped together. And it's taken us scientists, the scientists today, hundreds of years to really start to get a handle on how an ecosystem works. But we understand when God made the ecosystem, He did it with a little bit more insight than we have. But we're catching up. We're slowly catching up. Okay. Now, so that's another idea. I want to check how we're doing on time. I think we're going to shift gears now. The Gemara is going to go on with blessings on rain, the different types of rain, and certainly today that works well because we're being rained in around here. But thank God it's been one of the most amazing years of rain in Israel for at least 20 years. And the Kinneret is filling up and there's blessing everywhere. And you see that things are growing more prolifically. So this is part of God's blessing. So bless the rain and bless your children and your spouse and your family and your world and your God. And we will talk tomorrow. In a few minutes, we're going to start with some halacha of Pesach, and then we're going to learn some Rabbi Nachman. So we'll be back in just a few minutes.